Dear Patriots, before the news starts, please subscribe to our patriotic channel by clicking the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up to this video. Don't forget to leave your opinion below in the comments section. Share the news on Facebook and Twitter so you friends see it. Thank you.
Rand Paul opposes Pompeo nomination for Secretary of State. Rand Paul is vowing to do everything he can to stop Mike Pompeo from becoming Secretary of State. The libertarian-leaning GOP senator said Wednesday that Pompeo's earlier support for the Iraq War and defense of enhanced interrogation techniques, or torture, in the view of Paul and many other senators, is disqualifying. And the Kentucky senator indicated he may be willing to filibuster the nominations of both Pompeo and CIA Director pick Gina Haspel, who he says is gleeful in her defense of torture techniques. Paul seemed to have no qualms about taking on President Donald Trump, giving a news conference on Wednesday and then launching into a flurry of media hits in opposition to Trump's attempts to reshuffle his cabinet after ousting Secretary of State Rex Tillerson. People complain sometimes about the filibuster, they complain about trying to obstruct. I think the debate over whether or not America is a country in favor of torture or not is an important one, Paul said. I'm going to do everything I can to block them. Paul's opposition to Pompeo will be more immediately felt because he serves on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, where the GOP enjoys just a one-seat advantage. With Paul opposed, Pompeo could receive an unfavorable committee verdict if Democrats join him in opposition, which would be a serious black mark on Pompeo's nomination. Pompeo's previous pushes for regime change in Iran and his hawkish worldview are also at odds with Trump, and therefore he should not be given the job, Paul argued. I'm perplexed by the nomination of people who love the Iraq War so much that they would advocate for a war with Iran next, Paul said. It goes against most of the things President Trump campaigned on, that the unintended consequences of regime change in Iraq led to instability in the Middle East. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell could still bring Pompeo's nomination directly to the Senate floor even if Paul teams with Democrats to vote against him in committee. Red state Democrats may also feel pressure to support Pompeo on the floor to show they back some of Trump's nominees. But there are no moderate Democrats in serious danger this fall on the Foreign Relations Committee, which could be bad news for Pompeo. The top Democrat on the panel, Senator Robert Menendez of New Jersey, said in an interview on Wednesday that Pompeo's support among Democrats hinges on how he navigates his confirmation hearing in April. There are Democrats who supported him for the CIA director, but being Secretary of State is totally different than CIA director, Menendez said of Pompeo. 15 Democratic caucus members supported Pompeo to be CIA director last year, but just 2 of them are on the Foreign Relations panel, Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire and Tim Kaine of Virginia. In an interview, Senate Foreign Relations Chairman Bob Corker, Republican Tennessee, said Shaheen and Kaine's stance on Pompeo could be affected by ongoing debates about North Korea and Iran. But he vowed to bring Pompeo's nomination to a floor vote. We'll figure out a way to get him to the floor, Corker said. Paul does not serve on the intelligence panel, so Haspel's confirmation process may be less rocky. Still, because Senator John McCain, Republican Arizona, has expressed reservations about Haspel, unanimous Democratic opposition could similarly derail that nomination on the Senate floor. Paul said Haspel's remarks about her time overseeing a CIA Black Ops site disqualified her from the job of leading the intelligence agency, and he seemed bullish on blocking her, citing somewhat skeptical comments from Senator Dianne Feinstein, Democrat California. We'll see if she has the courage of her convictions to actually vote no. Paul said a successful campaign against Haspel depends on the solidarity of the Democrats. My opposition to her is over her direct participation in interrogation and her gleeful enjoyment at the suffering of someone being tortured, Paul said. Senator McCain has voiced some misgivings about the CIA appointment. If he alone were to say no, it might be enough. Trump hires Kudlow. You are looking handsome, Larry. Larry Kudlow will be the next director of the National Economic Council, succeeding Gary Cohn as President Donald Trump's top economic advisor, the White House confirmed Wednesday. Larry Kudlow was offered, and accepted, the position of Assistant to the President for Economic Policy and Director of the National Economic Council, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders said in a statement. She added that the White House was working to have an orderly transition and would announce timing soon. Trump offered the job to Kudlow, a CNBC personality who has been a regular outside advisor to the president, over the phone Tuesday night while Kudlow was at dinner at Cipriani Restaurant in Manhattan, a person close to the matter said earlier Wednesday. Kudlow accepted. During the call, Trump said he was seeing Kudlow's photo on television and told him, "You're looking handsome, Larry." The president thinks very highly of Larry Kudlow, White House Deputy Press Secretary Raj Shah told reporters aboard Air Force One as Trump flew to Missouri from California on Wednesday. They had a great conversation on the phone yesterday. He added that many people wanted the NEC job. Cohn, a former Goldman Sachs executive who was instrumental in shepherding Trump's tax cuts last December, resigned on March 6 amid a pitched internal battle over Trump's decision to impose steep tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. Kudlow will have the difficult task of advising a president who is increasingly inclined to keep his own counsel, and who wants to pursue aggressive trade policies, including tariffs, against both adversaries and allies. Kudlow, a committed free trader and former Democrat who served in the Reagan administration, is expected to start in the next few days. He will immediately find himself in conflict with Trump advisors who have strong protectionist tendencies, including trade advisor Peter Navarro and Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross. Kudlow would likely have to push to protect the North American Free Trade Agreement in the White House. In a recent podcast interview, Kudlow said withdrawing from the agreement would be a calamitously bad decision. The administration is also working now on tough trade sanctions against China over allegations of technology and intellectual property theft. Kudlow's television presence is part of the reason Trump wanted him for the job, according to a senior White House official. Trump regularly complains that he does not have enough talented people making the case for his policies on television. Kudlow briefly fell out of favor after sharply criticizing Trump's decision to impose tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. But as Trump dismissed other candidates, including Cohn's deputy Shahir Knight, Kudlow's stock rose again and the pair began speaking over the weekend. Kudlow said on CNBC on Wednesday afternoon that the president first called Sunday after Kudlow finished a round of tennis in Connecticut. "I'd thought he was going to call me to bawl me out because I had a problem with some across-the-board tariffs," Kudlow told CNBC. "But he didn't. He called and started explaining his position to me." Kudlow added that he had a series of conversations with Trump leading up to the job offer Tuesday night. "Just to talk to him for 30-40 minutes at a clip, 3-4 days in a row is a wonderful thing. I just want to say that. It's a wonderful thing. And he and I have known each other many years." After the formal job offer Tuesday, Kudlow continued to speak with Trump about upcoming agenda items while riding in an Uber. It will be the latest high-profile job for Kudlow, who served as an economist at the New York Federal Reserve and at the Office of Management and Budget under President Ronald Reagan before a career on Wall Street including serving as chief economist at Bear Stearns. Kudlow has been public about his recovery from alcohol and cocaine addiction and has been sober for many years. He has strong relationships with Republicans and Democrats on Capitol Hill. "He is such a gentleman and so conciliatory, and he really doesn't have a big ego like you might expect for someone who has done what he's done," said Doug Cass, a Florida hedge fund manager and ardent Democrat who has been friends with Kudlow for years. "He will be perfect working for someone like Trump who does have a large ego." DeVos defies White House in dismantling Education Budget Office. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos is moving to break apart her agency's Central Budget Office despite objections from the White House's Office of Management and Budget. DeVos last week removed the department's top budget official and at least one other budget division director from their posts, reassigning the employees to jobs elsewhere in the agency. Top political appointees are also taking steps to make further reassignments of staff and functions in the budget office. The budget office has had a strained relationship with DeVos and political appointees ever since the department's full budget request last year was published by the Washington Post, days before its official release. And the office had been blamed, incorrectly, for other leaks, several department staffers said. As part of a sweeping agency-wide government reorganization ordered by President Donald Trump, DeVos wants to break up and decentralize all of the Education Department's budget functions. The department's overall plan, according to an internal presentation obtained by Politico last month, calls for a restructuring of how we approach policy and budget development. OMB officials have objected to breaking apart the department's budget service, according to 4 officials with knowledge of the situation. The disagreement comes as OMB has greenlighted most other parts of DeVos' proposed overhaul of the agency, 2 officials said. OMB Director Mick Mulvaney in recent weeks told DeVos directly about his concerns with dismantling the budget office, according to 2 people with knowledge of the conversation. Education Department officials defended the restructuring. This internal management improvement will ensure policy drives budget decisions, not the other way around, Education Department spokeswoman Liz Hill said in an email. Every policy area within the department will gain a budget expert to better serve students and taxpayers. Hill said that the enhancements have been vetted with OMB, but she declined to say whether OMB had approved the changes. There's still going to be an Office of Budget Services, she said. It will reside in the office of the CFO. OMB Press Secretary Megan Boris said in an email on Thursday that OMB is working closely with the Department of Education to ensure their reorganization plans are closely aligned with the administration. The Budget Office serves as a central point of contact between the Education Department and OMB staff, as well as congressional appropriators. But the shifts create turmoil just as appropriators finalize the text of a fiscal 2018 omnibus government spending bill that will govern the department for months to come, and as DeVos prepares to testify about her budget request on Capitol Hill next week, always a crucial moment for an agency head. Erica Navarro, who had served as Budget Service Director since 2016, was the career point person on the budget, sitting next to DeVos during her appearances before appropriations subcommittees last year. Navarro was reassigned on Friday to the Office for Civil Rights, where she'll be Deputy Assistant Secretary for Management and Planning. A slew of changes for the Budget Office were announced during a staff meeting on Tuesday led by Kent Talbert, who is the acting number 2 official at the department, and Frank Brogan, who was nominated to lead the K-12 Education Office and is currently in charge of the Office of Planning, Evaluation, and Policy Development. They announced that the budget division responsible for cost estimation and analysis will be moved to the Office of Federal Student Aid, according to an official familiar with the meeting. Budget personnel overseeing specific programs will move to various program offices, according to the official. And other remaining functions and staffers in the budget office will be moved to the Office of the Chief Financial Officer. The changes don't officially take effect until January 2019, department staff were told. Career officials in the budget office had already been prohibited from communicating directly with congressional committees or the Office of Management and Budget without the approval of political appointees, according to several sources. Hill disputed that characterization of the instructions to career staff. They were directed to coordinate communications with the Office of Legislative and Congressional Affairs, she said. The shuffling of senior career officials at the department that began on Friday was described to some staff internally as the first round of such personnel reassignments, according to an email obtained by Politico. The moves are part of a broader agency-wide reshuffling, but the budget offices appears to have been most affected so far. Besides Navarro, Craig Stanton, who directed the Budget Division for Special Education, Rehabilitation, Research and Post-Secondary Analysis, was also reassigned to a new role in the Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education. Outside of the Budget Office, Sandra Battle, the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Enforcement in the Office for Civil Rights, will be moving to the Office of the Deputy Secretary, where she'll serve as Performance Improvement Officer. Candace Jackson, the acting head of Civil Rights, said in an email to staff that the transition means that for now the office's enforcement directors will report directly to her. Chief Privacy Officer Kathleen Stiles has also been reassigned, a change that was first reported on Wednesday by Education Week. Hill, the department spokeswoman, said that the Senior Executive Service Program was designed to better serve federal agencies by moving executives across and within departments, but that those senior career officials haven't ever been rotated at the Education Department. The Secretary took the year to assess talents and rotated SES employees according to departmental needs and Office of Personnel Management guidance, Hill said. Caitlin Emma contributed to this report.